What's going on, guys? On today's episode of Wise Up, we're going to be choosing the right type of core exercise for you. So whenever you're trying to put something into your repertoire, you always want to have a reason for it. It should always have a means to an end. We don't want to just aimlessly choose something because it looks cool on Instagram and expect some type of result from it. So in today's video, we'll be breaking down core exercises in about 5 or 6 different categories, showing its applications and its uses. All right, so we're gonna dive into the first one. It's the anti-extension core exercises. This one applies greatly to people who have anterior pelvic tilt, who are always kind of extended at the hips a lot of the time. We're trying to cure that by keeping the whole body neutral and preventing it from going into extension. So exercises like the popular dead bug, Swiss ball rollouts, and even the bear crawl, and it's all different types of variations of it, actually encourage us to keep a neutral lower back and stop us from going into extension. Failure to keep this neutral position and going into extension will result in lower back pain and you're worsening your positioning. So next up is flexion exercises. We're talking the Swiss ball crunch, sit-ups, things that force us into a lot of flexion, right? You might want to stay away from this one if you have a little bit of a thoracic outlet syndrome or really poor T-spine flexibility and mobility. You don't want to force yourself into a position that you're already in. You kind of want to balance it out with something else. Next up on the list are going to be anti-rotation exercises and rotational exercises. So kind of a split part to this one. If you do find yourself a little bit imbalanced left to right, where you have one hip a little bit higher than the other, anti-rotation as well as rotation can play a really big benefit in your program. Again, it's not going to fix the problem, but you can strengthen these positions, lengthen these shortened muscles, and get to being structurally sound. So exercise examples would be, again, the popular Pallof press. You can do multiple different variations of this one for anti-rotation. And for rotational, we'll use the wood chop. You can, again, vary it up with different angles and different positions to really use that rotational force. All right, last but not least is the lower abs, where we'll talk about a couple exercises that target those exclusively. One of them is going to be the hanging leg raise. This one is kind of an underrated exercise, even to warm up the hip flexors. We always talk about stretching them and doing mobility on them, but we hardly warm them up with something as simple as a hanging leg raise. Grab the bar, raise your knees to your chest, and if you can, get your legs straight out and get them up. You're also hitting your lower abs, of course, but it's an underrated exercise for your hip flexors. The second one I'm going to give you is one of my favorites. It's kind of the candlestick. You can grab any object on the ground, posteriorly tilt your hips, and you're going to kind of come up into a uniform fashion and squeeze straight up. Talking about V-ups and exercises for the lower abs on the ground may aggravate a lot of people's lower back. That's why I chose the previous two. Also, training the lower abs effectively helps you kind of get out of extension because you're posteriorly tilting your hips on almost every lower ab movement. You're teaching yourself to kind of level out and keep neutral and not extending. So remember, every exercise in your program has a means to an end. There should be a very strong reason why it's in there. All right, if you have any questions about core exercises or anything else, don't be afraid to hit me up. I'll see you on the next one.